What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Renegade Marquee on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me, as always, is the Streamin demon, Jacob.
It's all about family, Mike.
It is all about family. And today we are reviewing Fast 9, the 10th or even 11th installment
10th,
in the Fast and Furious franchise. Now, before we get to the feature presentation, I personally didn't get a chance to rewatch everything before I saw the film, but Jacob has, and I want to put him under the spotlight for a second. All of these movies, you have just seen for the first time.
That is true.
So why don't you give me some of your general impressions of the franchise so far?
Well, by far, one of the not so great things about being a part of this otherwise fantastic podcast is when I am not familiar with a particular franchise, I have to kind of binge watch it. And in that way, it's watching these movies is kind of like homework. Okay. So I wasn't fully in probably the right state of mind to watch these movies for the first time. You know, like all of these 9 movies in the span of 2 weeks.
Well, hang on. Let's back up for a moment. Let's say if we didn't have this platform, would you have been interested at all in the Fast and the Furious franchise?
I doubt it.
Okay, that's
the fact that it's taking me this long to finally watch them is kind of proof of that.
Fair enough.
You know what? As a movie critic, supposedly a movie critic, but it is something it is a career I would like to pursue. You know, I kind of need to have a broad taste in movies, you know, just so I can view each one fairly and by their own terms. You know, that's kind of the main requirements to be a professional movie critic, right?
Sure.
You can't judge a movie by the same standards that you would another movie. You can't judge Avengers Endgame the same way you would judge Parasite or Portrait of a Lady on Fire, for instance.
Yeah.
So that I try to go into these movies with an open mind, but like I said, these movies were kind of an assignment to me, and it was mainly so I could just get caught up to this one. And this franchise, I just had to concede, it's just not for me. All right, and watching these movies, it just confirms it. Okay, it's just not for me. All right, I can never really get invested into the stories. I can never really keep track of the characters being presented. Here's the thing. I understand why people like these movies. I really do. But, you know, when you watch 9 movies that are essentially of the same genre, all right, and largely the same cast of characters over and over, it gets a little draining, okay? Maybe if I was a fan from the beginning and I watched, each movie, and their initial release, you know, it might be a treat to see a new Fast and Furious movie 2 years after the last one, but just one, but that much, it wears off on you. It just wears you out, you know.
I hear what you're saying, but it almost kind of feels like you're kind of underselling the evolution of this franchise.
Yeah, I get the evolution. I get it. It's the first 4 movies they're kind of different plots, but they're essentially about the racing. And then Furious 9 to this one, it's about their heist movies, their espionage movies. So I get the evolution in that. Maybe I was exaggerating when I say that it's the same movie. But, you know, I kind of see it as 2 separate series. And maybe this current state of the franchise was what was kind of wearing me out, because I think I liked F5 just fine. Whatever that movie's called. I think it's Fate of the Furious is what it's called, or is that the?
Um,
Okay, that's another thing. Why can't they just go by numbers? It's Fast Five. Fast Five is what it's called. It's like sometimes they go with numbers and sometimes they don't, and it gets a little confusing.
I mean, that's not necessarily unique to this franchise. Other movies are equally as confusing.
Inconsistent, yeah. I don't want people to think that I'm just some like snob who only watches art and independent films and hates blockbusters. That's not true at all. I love the Marvel movies primarily because each movie has like a different cast and only occasionally they come together, you know. And again, I just had to concede that it's not really a franchise I can look fairly on because I don't think I'm alone in saying that these movies are pretty dumb, even by like the standards of this kind of franchise.
No. Most people, even those who love these movies, will be the first to tell you that they are dumb. Like
yes, and that's what people love about them, and I completely understand that. But again, okay, you know, that's like I've said, that's a downside of watching these movies all the time. It's more about circumstances than they are as actual movies. So yeah, I'm not judging these on the most fair light, and I'll fully admit that. So I'm not the kind of person to turn to ask which one of these movies are good or bad, because I just gotta concede they're just not for me. All right, and I'm humble enough to admit that.
So that's where I come in. Well, it has been a while since I've rewatched the entire series. I can at least tell you by memory which ones I enjoyed the most. I'd say Fast Five is probably the best and has the most balance between, you know, the actual like dramatic storytelling and character moments versus the insane spectacle of the action. My second favorite would be Furious 7, because if you know anything about the production of that film, how Paul Walker passed away halfway through production, and pretty much James Wan had to like basically will that movie into existence. And then
I will give this movie props though. They did that was pretty seamless how it pretty gracefully, like it just like it like I kind of parts forgot that Paul Walker had died. You know, like it kind of worked when the movie focused on him. Like it didn't feel like they had to make any real changes to work around his death.
Yeah, I mean, that's
in terms of plot, that was impressive.
That's what I love about that, about you know, this, like the way that film came together. I mean, sure, you can argue on the one hand that the way the movie ends doesn't really make a whole lot of sense unless you understood that Paul Walker is no longer with us, and yet the franchise still continues for they say up to 11 films, but who knows? That could be more, that could be less.
Yeah,
we don't know.
I think most people who watch these movies are aware that Paul Walker died. So during it, so I think it does make sense. Like it will make sense to most people, I think, who do see these movies for the first time.
Oh yeah, no, I think if you're a fan of this franchise, that's like borderline common knowledge.
That tribute to him at the end was beautiful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. See, I don't completely hate these movies. I can find merits in all of them.
Yeah. As for where I'd rank the other ones, that's a little bit tougher. I can only tell you my two favorites and my least favorite, which is Fast and Furious, the fourth one, only because I remember literally nothing about it.
That was the one where Michelle Rodriguez supposedly died.
Oh, yep.
My least favorite might actually have to be F2, like Too Fast, Too Furious.
I get it.
Miley, that was basically just a cop movie.
And what's weird is that like John Singleton directed that one, and he's usually a better filmmaker than the material that he was given.
Okay. Yeah. A part of me, I kind of have a soft spot for the first one, like in a way, because it's such a 2001 movie, you know, like it has that aesthetic down pat.
Oh yeah. By the way, this year officially marks the 20th anniversary of.
That's amazing that this franchise could survive that long.
And to be honest, it almost didn't survive. Like Tokyo Drift was the lowest grossing movie in the franchise up to that point. However, that is also the one that has gained the most cult following, and so
I can see that.
And so once Vin Diesel came back as a producer for Fast and Furious, and then Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was brought in for Fast 5, that's when things took a huge upswing.
Yeah.
And now this is like a $1 billion franchise.
Yeah, that was like Vin Diesel. He left this franchise. He wasn't in 2 or 3 because he was supposed to be this big action Hollywood star, and then he was starring in crap like The Pacifier, which also kind of mirrors The Rock in a way, because he was trying to be a big movie star in the 2000s, and he was starring in stuff like The Tooth Fairy and Game Plan and and Doom and all of that. It's his career. It's kind of interesting how this movie kind of brought these two back into the spotlight. They're like, it was like Fast 5. That was like the movie that really launched The Rock's career.
Well, I think he was already a pretty big star in his own right before that.
Yeah, but wasn't it like mostly like wrestling? Didn't people mostly know him as that?
Sure, but before that, he was, he had the Scorpion King franchise. He had, I think he was in one of the. Hold on, give me a second. I'm gonna look up what else he had before Fast 5, because he was a big wrestler. But like the year before Fast 5, the year before Fast 5 was The Other Guys with Will Smith or Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg.
He was in Get Smart, I think.
Yep, he was in Get Smart. He had The Rundown. He was in Southland Tales. His career, he's had a very he's had a long, pretty much a decade-long film career before Fast 5. That just happened to be like the the point of no return for everyone involved that year.
And I guess if he wasn't that big of an action star, he wouldn't actually be being featured in kids' movies, because that's kind of like a litmus test to how big of a star you are at this time.
That is true.
Like even like kids can recognize you.
So after Furious 7, without Paul Walker, I suppose I can ask you this question. Like, did you think that Furious 7 should have been the end of this franchise as you were watching them in sequential order?
I don't know if I would say that, because I know people are fans of this series, and it would suck for them, as tragic as Paul Walker's death was. I think he might want them to continue with the series. I do think because his death was a complete accident. He was planning to be in other stuff. He wanted it to go forward, and while this meant that the Brian character had to be written out, they still have these characters that they can use. Like he was the star, yeah, in the first movie. But since then, they've added a bunch of characters to the roster. So yeah, his death, it definitely took a bite out of the franchise. It had stolen everybody, but I think in terms of what people like people still responding to these movies, they're not I don't think too many people are saying that it was bad on Universal's part to continue without him. Has there been that level of a backlash, really?
Not on a macro level, but I know that has it's been a conversation point that some people have said oh, the franchise should have ended after 7, but mostly people are saying that because they didn't like Fate of the Furious.
Okay. Oh, so they just don't like it out of principle or something?
Well, not that. Some people just didn't really care for the movie, and
well, maybe that. Yeah, maybe they're just that's just based on their own taste, what their own personal opinions on the franchise, and so they're letting that kind of cloud their judgment, and so they can't really see if it was moral or immoral to continue on without Paul Walker.
Right. And I've never been one of those people who barring a few exceptions, but generally I'm never that guy who says oh, well, this franchise shouldn't continue after the death of this actor.
Yeah, you think Black Panther 2, Chadwick Boseman, he wanted this series to continue, obviously, and so I think they're doing the right thing and not recasting the character. And Kevin Feige said that Black Panther Wakanda Forever, that's going to focus on other people in Wakanda. So they're continuing the franchise while they're also respecting his memory. I think that was the way to go about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is possible to continue a franchise while still respecting the deceased actor's wishes.
Yeah, and if you have to do some course correcting, then so be it.
Yeah, I can see Paul Walker wanting this series to continue even without him.
Now that being said, as we slowly transition to Fast 9, one of the unfortunate realities of the whole behind the scenes production is learning how much The Rock and Vin Diesel cannot get along to the point where in a lot of Fate of the Furious, the two are never on screen at the same time.
Yeah. Which, yeah, well, what is that? Is it because Ben keeps criticizing Dwayne?
If I knew the answer, I would tell you. The only logical guess is they have two giant egos and egos clash.
Yeah, I don't think The Rock, he doesn't appear to me as an egotistical guy.
He may not seem that way, but then I think it's mostly on Vin Diesel.
Yeah, I guess, it kind of sucks. Isn't family the main theme of this series?
You'd think, but family, even family gets into arguments.
Yeah, I just hope that they patch things up before the last two movies. Apparently the last two are going to be a two-parter.
Yeah, it would be nice to see him return, even in just a cameo for the final film,
or at least just have them be in separate scenes. If that's really the only way they could be in the same movie.
I mean, you do what you have to. All right, so without further ado, let's actually get into F9. So this is the first film that sees the return of Justin Lin and everyone's favorite character, or one of their favorites, Sun Kang's character Han Lu, or Han Solo. So the story behind this one is Dom Toretto is living the quiet life off the grid with Letty and his son, but they know that danger always lurks over the peaceful horizon. This time, the threat that forces Dom to confront the sins of his past to save those he loved the most. His crew soon comes together to stop a world-shattering plot by the most skilled assassin and high-performance driver they've ever encountered, Dom's forsaken brother, played by John Cena. So, Jacob, what was it like seeing your first Fast and Furious movie in the theater?
Tell the truth, like when I got the first 9 movies, like F1 through 8, and also Hobbs and Shaw, that's like, okay, like, you know, now that assignment was done, I went into this movie, and I went into this one mainly. This was about just having a good time with this one, and you know, in some degree, I did have a good time with this in theater. See, like, that's another thing. All those past movies, they were just, I mainly watched them just to catch up to this one, so I wouldn't be confused. And this was just, okay, got all that done. Now let's just party.
Yeah.
And I have a better understanding of why people like this series.
That's good to hear. And honestly, I kind of felt the same way coming out of Furious 7, because that was my first movie that I saw in theaters from the franchise, and I came out of that having a great time.
Yeah. So when you watched the first 6 movies, was that like an assignment to you too?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say assignment, but in the same way that one has to kind of binge watch a long-running franchise, yeah, in a way it kind of was. Although watching those movies with my brother at the time that was fun. I remember he hated the fourth one. I didn't hate it really so much as it was just kind of forgettable compared to the rest of them.
Yeah. And looking back in hindsight, you know, maybe there are parts, you know, maybe I'd be willing to look over those scenes again on their own and kind of allow myself to be immersed in them and actually have a good time with them. Like, actually notice like the action beats this time, because I was kind of just in a daze watching these movies after like F7, like, even though that is, I've heard, the best one, you know, I was just kind of dazed after seeing like the first like 6. I just became kind of numb to it, you know.
Yeah, I think I know, like, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how you experience a movie, but with Fast and the Furious, I think these ones really do need to be seen on the big screen to
and maybe, you know, not so closely to each other, you know. Well, I think that's true of any franchise that's had this many titles in it.
Oh, sure. Now,
again, I can be fair. I can be fair even when talking to a franchise that's not my favorite in the world.
Absolutely. Now, getting more specific into F9, what were some of the things that stood out to you?
Like the conflict between Dom and Jacob. It was interesting because we actually see a family kind of rivalry that was like at the very beginning, practically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really hits home for Dom in this one.
Yeah, it really does. I wasn't really a big fan of at least at first how the flashbacks kind of feel, they almost feel like they belong in like a different movie than like the scenes in the present. But I think thinking about it a little bit more, I can understand a little bit more what they were trying to go for with those scenes, and maybe on a rewatch, like those will actually work a little bit better.
Another thing, Charlize Theron, she can actually be kind of intimidating as a villain.
Oh yeah,
A Cypher.
You know, say what you will about the last movie. I actually really like Charlize Theron as a villain.
I could see a little bit of Hannibal Lecter when she was in the glass box.
Yeah, that's kind of like the obvious homage with that whole deal. Now what'd you think of? Well, first of all, what'd you think of John Cena playing the main antagonist?
I don't really like. He doesn't have that much of a screen presence. Like I might be alone on that, but he just kind of said the lines to me. You know, he like and about as deadpan as some of the other, like Vin Diesel in a way. Yeah, he was just kind of like, he didn't really radiate in the way like The Rock does, for instance.
Where I'll disagree with you is I think Cena has more stage presence in comedies because
I can see that.
You know, because he's compared to The Rock and Dave Bautista, John Cena is more of a he's how should I put this? He kind of has a more wholesome personality.
Yeah.
So it like when he's either playing like the straight man or when he gets to play a more tongue-in-cheek character, it works a lot better than this movie trying to convince us that he would make an intimidating threat to the family.
To me, in this one he just kind of felt like strong guy, you know, like big, strong, badass guy. You know, I feel like I've seen that kind of performance before. And he does look awesome in the Suicide Squad. I think that's you'll probably really play to his strengths in that movie.
Yeah, I think that plays exactly to his strengths, because Peacemaker is a very silly character.
Yeah.
And you need someone with John Cena's screen presence to.
I just really can't take him that seriously in this movie.
And I think the worst thing about this movie is, in my opinion, more so than some of the previous entries, I think this movie really it kind of stretched itself a little too thin, going in completely opposite directions. Like on the one hand, you know, they're taking a slightly serious tone with the relationship between Dom and his brother, but on the other hand, you have Roman and Tej, played by Tyrese Gibson,
and Ludacris.
You have these two knuckleheads going into space. By the way, this podcast has spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler. Wasn't it already announced though in the press that F9 would take place at least to some extent in space?
I mean, they kind of teased it in the trailers, but still, we all kind of joked about this for at least like the past decade, that Fast and Furious is going to go to space, and then this is the movie to finally get there.
It happened with James Bond. It happened with Friday the 13th, and who's to say Fast and Furious can't?
And I think the best thing about it is the fact that it's it's these two characters.
Yeah.
So you don't have to take it completely seriously because they don't really take the stuff seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, don't expect like a 2001 montage in this. Like, can you imagine like them like floating around and it goes da na 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 bum 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 na 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 na. Like, imagine that in these movies.
Man, it's the more ridiculous things like taking these two characters to space, and all the other ridiculous action scenes, and also fun with magnets.
Yes, fun with magnets.
Like I don't think I've seen any other action movie have this much fun playing around with a giant electromagnet that can like rip all sorts of metal off the streets.
So also we also mentioned that in addition to Sung Kang as Han Lu, Bow Wow and Jason Tobin return as Twinkie and Earl from Tokyo Drift.
And also Lucas Black.
Yeah, Lucas Black as well as Sean.
So yeah, the people who are big fans of Tokyo Drift, they got some much deserved fan service.
Yeah. Although I wish the way they could have just interacted with Han as well. They don't do that until like the final cookout, the obligatory cookout where Brian, the new baby Brian, says grace. By the way, I love how that's another feature like all these movies have, is like cookout and saying grace.
Yep. It's not a Fast and Furious movie if it doesn't end with a cookout.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of Han, how did you feel about his character returning?
I thought it didn't really make too much sense how they brought him back. Like it turns out that it was just a really well done trick by Kurt Russell's Mr. Nobody. Like, how did that work exactly?
Honestly, certain things like that you just can't question, because then you can once you start to question like the details, like how does someone fake their death in such an elaborate fashion?
Yeah.
Once you pull on that thread, the whole franchise starts to fall apart.
Yeah. Like, what I don't get is like another thing. So Shaw was Shaw played by Jason Statham. Yeah, he kills him out of revenge, but against Dom for putting his brother in the hospital, like Luke Evans. Okay, his brother Luke Evans in the hospital. And okay, I wasn't that much invested into these stories, like as I've mentioned. So he is that why? So he tried to kill Han because of that, to send a message to Dom, correct?
From what I understand, again, it's been a while since I've seen the entire franchise.
All right, so that's another thing. How come they were so willing to include him on when they think he killed Han?
Honestly, that's a good question, but it's the same question you have to ask, fans of the Dragon Ball franchise, where it's like Goku makes friends with all of his former enemies.
Okay, like in F8 when Mr. Nobody, when he recruits them, none of them bring it up. Not one.
Well, at least now we know that Mr. Nobody knows the truth.
Yeah. All right. Well, he could have told them at least.
Yeah. I guess they were in such a pinch that like they didn't even have time to question it. So it's like, sure, right. Whatever. You're on the team now.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. And Han, he was already recruited by Mr. Nobody to extract this weapon that Charlie Theron is after. What? It's the Ares weapon, correct?
Yep.
And there was that girl, that like 11-year-old girl that Han took under his wing. Why was Charlie Theron after this girl again?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. I don't know. She must have had like, oh, she was the key to, you know, unlocking this weapon.
Okay, how though?
I don't know, pseudoscience.
Okay, all right, got it. I gotta remember, guys. Shut off the brain when I'm watching these movies. I gotta do, like, I just gotta accept it. Like, okay, all right, sure, whatever. The girl's the key, whatever. Yeah,
And
they welcome this who they think is a murderer with open arms into their group, whatever, sure.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why though this franchise has endured as long as it has is because, well, yes, the writing can get absurd levels of stupid. It's it's like the cast and the crew, they all believe that what they're making is like, you know, of genuine quality. And
yeah, like Vin Diesel, he said that he thought that the seventh one, God, that Furious 7, that should be up for Best Picture of the Oscars.
and like in no reality would that have ever been a Best Picture nominee.
Right.
But I gotta respect him for believing that much in his own franchise.
Yeah, he's even down for like there being a Fast and Furious musical.
And why not? Musicals and action movies are more similar than they are different.
Yeah, definitely. What strikes me is like F5 through 9, at least, it's amazing how much they can recycle the same like basic, like the premise is that they got to stop this massive weapon from falling to the wrong hands, and it ends with a cookout and Vin Diesel saying the word family like 5 times.
Yep.
Because family, luckily for this franchise, like family is defined in such a broad way that it can encompass like they just keep adding more and more and more in each series, and it's like a balloon.
A family balloon.
A family balloon, exactly. That's kind of like the strange appeal of this series. I'm starting to have a better grasp. That's done.
Yeah, now you get it. Once you see it on the big screen, that's like the aha moment.
That's what lockdown's done to me. You know, it's kind of, this kind of desensitized me to that sort of thing. You know, like I'm so used to watching these movies at home that, you know, I forgot the magic of it.
Yeah, and movies like this are magic.
Yeah, like I'm tired of like seeing like, because before like F9 and A Quiet Place 2, like I would just see like these small movies that no one really cares about most of the time, like Honest Thief, for instance, that Liam Neeson, you know, vehicle, and or News of the World, that Tom Hanks western, or like it's just or you know, it's like small movies that aren't required, I think, to see on the big screen, but then I get to see a blockbuster again, and that's nice.
Now, moving forward, okay, I'll ask you 2 questions. One, after seeing F9, how do you feel about the franchise moving forward? Are you more excited to see where the story ends?
In a way, like I just, you know, now that you know, like Han, he's like the second character after Michelle Rodriguez's Letty. It's like a character people thought was dead, but then they came back. I'm seeing like they're gonna bring Gal Gadot back.
I'll be honest. I thought at one point that she would be coming back in either the post-credit scene of this movie. By the way, there's by the way, there's a mid-credit scene at the end of Fast 9.
Mhm.
Or we'll see her in the last two.
All right. Or maybe who was that other white guy who died in F9? Fast 5.
Fast 5. Oh, the name escapes me.
There you go. I'm not alone. Like, he died, and so are they gonna find a way to bring him back too?
Who knows?
I saw. Are these these two last movies? Is it just gonna be I'm just impressed. I'm genuinely curious, how big they can make a movie where they go to space. It just makes you inherently, curious.
I have a feeling that F10, that F10 and F11 are going to be, these things are probably going to be big, epic. I hope they all go to space in at least one of them.
Or maybe it'll just be like Mad Max Fury Road, where there's a minimal plots between them. That's kind of a direction I would like to see this franchise go.
I think someone was joking about that on Twitter earlier, that someone wanted to see the Fast and Furious franchise go the way of Mad Max Fury Road, and then one of my other friends is like, how about just for shits and giggles we take things back to basics? And then I said, what? Sure, let's take things back to basics. Set in a post-apocalypse like Mad Max.
Yeah. Oh boy.
The other question I was going to ask, just about movie going in general, and we can even talk about some of the upcoming movies that we'll be discussing. What was I going to ask? Oh, so moving forward, are you going to before the pandemic? I assume you were at the movie theater at least twice a week.
I think so.
I also assume you would try to see as much as possible.
That I was interested in, yes.
How do you see your movie going habits changing now that things are sort of opening up again?
Well, my habits include well, I'm no longer required to wear a mask because I'm fully vaccinated.
That's one positive.
Yep, and Michigan's kind of lifted the mask ban. And so I hopefully I won't have to worry about catching it from any of the other audiences. And my habits, in a way, I kind of like going to movies with small crowds. All right, because at least I kind of enjoy having an entire theater to myself. I was kind of used to that, seeing a movie by myself, watching them on my smart TV at home. And with smaller crowds, that means I have more of the theater to myself. So I kind of want to see it on a Monday, or just kind of a dead day for movies. So I think I'm gonna see them less often during the weekend. That's one way I can imagine a new habit of mine going forward.
Yeah, less crowds, meaning more of an opportunity to really kind of focus.
Less distractions.
Yeah.
How about you? What?
I mean, because of all the other podcasts that I'm focusing on, I'm not quite going as often to the theater as I used to, although that may start changing now that more now that we're starting to see more movies like getting a wider release. It really does start to feel like the movies are back.
Yeah, like, that's what Vin Diesel said. Like, actually, this was the highest grossing opening weekend, F9, since the great box office reset.
That it was.
I gotta say, that refers to when the movies open again, like at the end of August. I gotta mention, like the Labor Day weekend, it came back. I think it was the Labor Day weekend. Like, yeah, it was like the movies that came out that weekend. The big wide releases were The New Mutants, Bill and Ted Face the Music, and The Personal History of David Copperfield. All right, so those were the movies that opened that weekend. And since then, we've taken baby steps under baby steps. You know, we have like streaming options for movies like Wonder Woman 84 and Godzilla vs. Kong and Raya the Last Dragon. And so we're kind of inching into like theatrical only releases, like being the kings of the box office in a way. And that came recently with A Quiet Place Part 2.
Yep.
So yeah, so F9, it is a sign that things are getting back to normal. Like, if Black Widow, if that outgrosses this movie, which I'm assuming is, that'll be the surest sign that the movies are back. Because that movie has the Disney Plus option. And so if that makes more at the box office than this did, then that just affirms that people aren't really interested in seeing these type of movies at home anymore.
Yeah.
Same for the Suicide Squad, because that's going to be available on HBO Max at no extra cost at all.
Yep. So if those two movies beat the opening weekend of Fast 9, then yes, we can say without a doubt that movies are back.
Okay, the only thing is a part of me wants to predict that if the Suicide Squad does gangbusters, then Warner Brothers may stop the whole HBO Max same day premiere thing and just have the rest of the 2021 movies be theatrical releases.
I'm not completely convinced that they'll abandon it this late into the year, but who knows?
I think we'll officially get back to normal in January 2022, when like the last movie so far to have that HBO Max thing is The Matrix 4, which comes out like during Christmas. From here on in, like after that, I don't think we'll be seeing too many same day shit. You know, I think it's just going to be theatrical exclusives for big blockbusters from here on in after that. Would you agree?
I think another thing that that Warner Brothers has made clear is that this whole HBO Max premiere thing was like, it was really only supposed to last 1 year anyway.
Yeah, because they had no idea how long like when the vaccine would come, for instance.
Right.
And a part of me is really hoping that nothing happens. But like this whole Delta variant, for instance, I hope that doesn't spread around to the point where, you know, we'll have to go into lockdown again.
Hopefully, even if that does start to spread, it won't be as like as drastic as the first lockdown.
That's another interesting thing I've been doing recently is I'm rewatching the movies that were shown in theaters only after the big box office reset. So I've been watching The New Mutants again. I've been watching Tenet again. I've been watching Honest Thief and War with Grandpa, you know, and all these type of movies that still thought were good enough to be released only in theaters during the pandemic. I thought that was, I just think it's interesting how we're kind of still in the middle of like this bizarre stage in the history of the box office where you could watch movies either at home, like in the same time in their initial release in the theaters or at home. And like there are certain movies that, however, that you can still only watch in the theater. That's kind of a bizarre chapter once you really think about it.
Yeah, it is quite bizarre.
Like, who would have thought you'd be able to watch Wonder Woman 84 in the theater? Like, if someone told you like 2 years ago that you would be able to watch a second Wonder Woman movie either in the theater or in the comforts of your home at no additional cost, that's crazy. That's insane.
I would have laughed you out of the room.
Exactly.
If that were if that were the case.
Right.
So
anyway, F9.
Yeah. That was a nice digression.
Yeah.
And anything from the movie that we haven't mentioned?
We haven't mentioned Michael Rooker. He was good.
Yeah. He was kind of one of those surprising character actors who I never for a second thought that we would see Michael Rooker in a Fast and Furious movie.
He kind of belongs in that environment, like that voice, that southern drawl.
Oh, sure. Like like his character in the context of like these flashbacks, and that one scene in the present, like I get why he was cast. It's just it's just like seeing him just without any fanfare. Just, oh yeah, by the way, I'm in this movie. It was just a little surreal.
Also, it was nice to see Helen Mirren again.
Yeah.
I love Helen Mirren.
Again, another actor who, when she was signed on for Fate of the Furious, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, holy shit. They got
her credit, she knows what kind of movies these are. She has fun with it.
That's true.
Also, Natalie Emmanuel as Ramsey.
It's kind of interesting how like she's already been in like 2 other movies before this, and this is the first time where it's brought up, oh, by the way, I don't have my license.
Yeah, I thought that was a cute little bit.
I mean, it kind of adds to the insanity of the magnet chase scene.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So one last thing I got to bring up, and I'll make sure whoever's writing the show notes puts a big spoiler warning, in like at the top. So we're going to see John Cena again in the future.
Okay.
Like based on how this movie ends. I'm not saying that with any. I'm not saying that with any inside knowledge. It's just judging by the way this ends and how, we talked about before how easily Deckard Shaw was accepted into the group. Now at the end of this movie, Dom and Jacob are getting along again. And this kind of comes back to what we said about Cena not really being a good villain, because he comes off more as like the straight-laced hero figure.
He's like a big doofus. He's like a big lug.
So my question is, the next time we see him, do you think he'll be a little bit more like himself?
Yeah, I can imagine that. Especially spending some time with Dom, breaking free from Charlize Theron. I can imagine that. I'd be more than welcome to. I want to see that, honestly.
Same. And to be fair, every every character in this movie kind of starts off a certain way and then ends up playing more or less themselves. Like if you remember how Luke Hobbs was introduced in Fast Five, he was
He
a
was
lot
basically
more.
He was like Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive, basically.
Basically, yeah.
And there's the point where they were going to cast Tommy Lee Jones in that role.
Boy, that would have been a different movie altogether.
Yeah, can you imagine like Tommy Lee Jones and Vin Diesel in a fight? Unless Tommy Lee Jones got really ripped for that.
Oh boy, that would be something. So any final thoughts before we wind things down?
F9. If you like this franchise, and a lot of you like about it, is in this one. Don't expect too many deviancies. Like if you're looking for something really fresh and interesting, but if you want a reminder that movies are back, then look no further than this one.
Yeah, this one's not my favorite of the franchise. I think like the gold standard for me is still Fast 5 and Furious 7, but as a general fan of these movies, I got what I paid for with this. I got my my ridiculous action scenes. I got, the chance to see these characters again. It has the heart, it has the family, and it has a little bit of space travel. So I am sufficiently satisfied with this installment. Also, Han is back, so justice for Han. So next week we have a really fun 4th of July special. We're talking The Forever Purge. We've got Summer of Soul, and depending on if we're all able to see it, the new A24 film Zola.
It should be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Same. So before we get out of here, Jacob, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on Facebook and Twitter under J.O. Crable, Krehbiel. I'm also part of the Renegade Pop Culture Facebook group, and I have my own Letterboxd account, Streamin Demon.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at Captain K42. Check out all my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. Find me in all the various Facebook groups just at my name. You can check out Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. You can also give us a rating on Podchaser. Listen to all of our previous podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this installment of Renegade Marquee. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will catch you guys later. Peace out.
See ya.